Yo, what's up guys? You got pokeaim here. Today we have a video talking about the ban of Dracozolt. Dracozolt has been banned in Pokemon Sword and Shield in the UU tier, and I just want to go over what was said about it and then show some replays about it too. Now, if you actually look at the list right here, I was the one that put abstain because this past week and a half I really didn't have any time to play anything extra outside of what I was recording, especially because I had tournament prep and stuff. So, and real life stuff going on, so I didn't feel that I had played enough with Dracozolt in order to vote anything. But they opened up this discussion a few days ago in this Smogon Thread, and then they ended up voting on the banning of it. But I'll read what TDK has to say right here. When Dracozolt initially dropped, everyone jumped on the Choice Band set due to its crazy power and the fact that it OHKOs nearly everything that isn't a ground type with Bolt Beak. Which is true. Obviously, Bolt Beak doubles in power when it's faster, and of course the hustle boost too. To which get hit, that isn't a ground type with Bolt Beak, to which get hits by Outrage or another move. But a crazy good breaker is nothing new to this tier, as we've had a multitude of absurdly good breakers. Yeah, Showdown was recently in the tier, as well as Obstacle and whatnot. Even if Dracozolt is hard to wall, both of its stabs will still very frequently run into an immunity, and it also has to deal with Hustle, reducing its accuracy. Yep, the best accuracy Dracozolt could ever have with Hustle is 80%, just letting y'all know. Dracozolt's speed is also really bad, leaving it vulnerable to easily being revenge killed by a lot of very common Pokemon, as well as reducing the opportunities. It has to even come in its in the first place. I'm sorry, I'm like it's early for me, my bad. However, as time went on, people diverged from only using the CB set and found out that Dracozolt is, quite frankly, pretty stupid with multiple sets. Scarf in particular is ridiculous, letting it outspeed the vast majority of the tier and giving it absurd cleaning potential. Life Orb and Substitute are up there as well, being able to change moves and still hit absurdly hard or absurdly powerful, as well as hide behind a sub, making it impossible to revenge kill, bar Infiltrator, allows for even more shenanigans. Infiltrator, of course, being on a Pokemon like a Noivern or Chandelure. Choice Band is not a bad set by no means either, as quite frankly it doesn't have any form of counterplay bar winning a 50-50, and by that they mean obviously if you have out a water type or something that's non-resistant to an electric type move in front of you and you have a ground type in the back, you can switch into the ground type and be immune to the Bolt Beak, or they can go for Outrage or Dragon Claw and they might be able to 2-KO or kill your ground type coming in. B, dodging, of course, Hustle, or C, sack or revenge kill, which only works if they lock themselves into Outrage. All in all, Dracozolt is simply too much for the tier and has been voted to be banned in a 9-1 decision. Now, I just want to go off of, I want to read a few more posts that other people said that aren't necessarily in the council, and then I'm going to show you guys some replays of Dracozolt as well, and then I'll give my thoughts after we have done all that, because again, like, I didn't want to give a ban. I didn't want to say ban. I didn't want to say don't ban either. Like, I don't know about this Pokemon. Anyway, I've been sticking with Banzolt, and the power coming off of it absolutely absurd, chunking even resistances to 60 to 80% and having a very high chance to OHKO Galarian Weezing, which I think is a big thing considering Galarian Weezing and like Hippowdon are like premier physical walls outside of Avalugg, which is also 2-KO. Anything else that chooses to stay and just dies to stabs or gets chunked very hard. Once you remove the big counter of the ground or your fairy type, you can abuse its stab and not have to think too hard, as nothing relevant in the UU meta wants to come in on it. The fact that it can run Ban, Scarf, Life Orb, and Substitute, all with great effectiveness, also adds onto the unpredictable nature of scouting what set the Dracozolt player is running. This is on top of trying to figure out what stab move will come out. It's absurd forcing of coin flip scenarios, and having little to no perfect counters towards it should deserve a ban. I think that was a fine couple sentences right there, paragraph, if you want to see in itself. I did like what Kick said as well here, but let's look at a few Dracozolt replays. And guys, please let me know your thoughts down below. I think one good thing that comes out of this is we get more Pokemon in the BL next, and by that we have two, man. Only Hawlucha and Dracozolt currently, since Crawdon, Obstagoon, and Gengar all moved up. Honestly, sorry, I just smacked my mic. Honestly, if Dugtrio ends up getting banned, I believe Dracozolt can move up to the OU tier as well without having to worry about being revenge killed. One thing I also want to note is that I actually asked Hog, one of the UU tier leaders, when UU will start testing back things in, because as you guys know, I'm not the biggest fan of banning things before letting the community have suspense tests, right? I'm a huge fan of suspense tests. I think they're good. I think they get in community thoughts and opinion. And of course, if people really do feel strongly about something, they can ladder and they can say what they feel and they can actually vote on it. I'm a big fan of that. Because UU is still in beta, and beta has no established time frame simply because of Pokemon Home not being out yet, UU isn't currently testing things back in. But once UU gets out of beta, what I heard was that they would be starting to test things back in, which I think is a good way of at least dealing with certain things. Man, Dracozolt just looks like it's in pain. Arctozolt looks like it's more in pain, though, technically. But I'm a big fan of that type of mindset if you are going to ban or vote on bans. And this is not me trying to save my skin because I'm on the council, but it's more so like I like that because it at least lets the metagame keep developing, but it also gives Pokemon a chance where they might not necessarily have been broken. And I already mentioned this earlier in the Gengar Obstagoon Crawdaunt ban, which is why I voted do not ban on Obstagoon, because I felt like Obstagoon wasn't too much, but I just think that when it's in a metagame where both Crawdaunt and Gengar are too much, it makes that Pokemon seem like too much. And I related that to DPP OU back in the day when both Salamence and Latias were banned at the same time, and that's because Salamence was too much back in the day in 4th Gen OU, and I don't think Latias was, and they eventually tested it back in years later, and now Latias is a staple in OU and DPP once again, and it's not anything broken. But yeah, basically once the tier leaders in the council feel like UU is stable enough to move out of beta, they will. And Hog feels like they're really close, but with Pokemon Home like coming out sometime this month, which we don't know. Some people were saying the 7th. I thought it was the 6th because I thought I saw a sheet on it. Some people were saying it was the 7th. Some people were saying mid February. I'm honestly leaning right now towards Pokemon Home just coming out on Pokemon Day, personally, which is going to be the end of February. But yeah, I'm guessing like going into March is when UU will start testing things back in and having specific suspense tests. But yeah, anyway, moving forward, let's look at some Dracozolt replays. And like I said, I would like you guys to give me your thoughts on Dracozolt. So right here we have the Dracozolt user right now, and then I'll go back a page or two and we'll read another thing. This type of video is always for just opening up discussion and whatnot. But yeah, so we have a Dracozolt replay right here. I'll put it in dark mode, just cause. But we see Galarian Weezing versus Dracozolt as a lead. And Galarian Weezing is interesting because it's actually one of the few mons that can switch into Earthquake from Diggersby. Even Arachne doesn't appreciate it. So they go right for a Bolt Beak and it dies. Instantly. So they get that play right instantly. So now they can safely click Dragon Claw versus the entire team. And this is obviously Sticky Web offense with a whole bunch of scary Pokemon, maybe Swordsdance or Nasty Plot, Toxicroak, maybe. But they got rid of Galarian Weezing turn 1 with Dracozolt, which I'm assuming is banded on this team. I think that's the only set that could actually kill it. Though Special Defensive Weezing has a chance to die to Scarf Dracozolt, which is pretty crazy too. But Mamoswine comes out, you just go Golisopod, and basically from here, the game becomes like, well, they have answers to Golisopod, you can just Spike, which is really smart too because they're not going to go out into their Magic Bounce Mon. And this Toxicroak ends up being, it looks like a Nasty Plot set because it ends up setting up in its face. And we're just going to shuffle through a little bit. How Gardevoir can come in and not be Scarf, or at least bluff the Scarf, and it does 63% to Arachne, so I'm pretty sure it's actually Specs, not Scarf, and that's maybe even Modest Croak. But Espeon comes out, Diggersby is going to come out on that as they go for Calm Mind. Diggersby dies, but Golisopod can come out and threaten with the first impression, and we're basically waiting for the position where Dracozolt comes back in on something. And it turns out that was actually Scarf Dracozolt too, and that was just Spadef Weezing or Offensive Weezing on this type of build, which Offensive Weezing is a thing too, and it just straight up died. So it can click Outrage here relatively safely, considering Durant, if it comes into Revenge Kill, Noivern gets a switch in, and then Noivern can either click Flamethrower or Draco to do damage to something. But yeah, basically it forced its kill, and with Espeon being gone, the speed tiers are back to where Noivern is the fastest. And obviously, like I said, Golisopod can just come in and go for Leech Life. Doesn't matter. And at this point, we just see some plays until Noivern gets to come in and pick up some KOs right here. With the heavy duty boots, you don't have to worry either. Yep, just click Flamethrower, and Mamoswine died to hazards. But as you saw, Scarf Dracozolt, which I'm surprised that was Scarf. That was offensive Weezing, obviously. Scarf Dracozolt was able to blow back another one. Now we have another game right here where the Choice Scarf Dracozolt set's interesting because you only need Bolt Beak and then Dragon Claw. And I mean, Outrage can work too as well, but some people like to run Draco Meteor as well because it's not affected by Hustle, and it's actually its most accurate move that it can run, and that allows versus the that allows you to pick up some KOs on Pokemon like opposing Dracozolt, for instance. So like we see Dracozolt lead versus Dracozolt lead, and my boy decides to risk the potential speed tie, click Draco, knock him out. Had they clicked Outrage or their own Draco, had they clicked Outrage or to knock out the opposing Dracozolt, they would have been locked in and Gardevoir would have been able to kill. So Dracozolt immediately being able to deal with an opposing Dracozolt set immediately. And then Berserker comes in. We see some really cool tech right here of Steel Beam with what I'm assuming is Steely Spirit. And that's in a way to like block defog and whatnot. And also just bump everything. But Dracozolt comes back in. Mamoswine comes out. Obviously going to go Goliathopod there. As they get up rocks, reading the switch. Good play on their part. And again, Spike just coming out, breaking potential sashes. This is actually a really smart play too, staying with Goliathopod, considering there's no way that everyone was going to go for Hurricane and give Dracozolt a free switching. But it still does give it a free switching because of the emergency exit. And as you can see, Dracozolt is just in another commanding position right here. And it's able to read. It actually reads the Araquanid switch. And instead of going for Draco, opts to go for Bolt Beak. And that's it. Like now, Outrage cleans up everything, or Draco can potentially get a kill too, but reads the Araquanid switch and goes for the Bolt Beak, as it does allow Mamoswine in, but you can just sack the Goliathopod here, and it's not even a sack because Goliathopod won't die, and you can still get off a first impression if you need to. As Noivern comes back up, and they do go for that first impression, but that doesn't really matter because right now they just sack Goliathopod, go right back out into Dracozolt, and just click Draco. Now this isn't really like, I think this one in particular isn't necessarily showing, it just show how good the Scarf set is, like, right, it can run mix. It's not necessarily showing that Dracozolt is broken in itself here. And they just weaken the opponent to the point where Gardevoir can just come in and set up for Diggersby to win the game, provided no flinch there. And yeah, that's what ended up happening. But that was just showing an example of that type of Dracozolt. I do have a few more examples of substitute. I have an example of substitute Dracozolt as well, which I really want to show as well. But yeah, we have this game right here where we see a Noivern lead versus Reuniclus, and I mean, obviously Reuniclus has the matchup here because it shouldn't be 2-hit KO'd, and it has to threaten with Psychic. So Melodic comes out, which actually gets bopped by Psychic into Thunder, if I'm not mistaken. I watch these replays, but like I'm just going over it right now. It gets bopped by Psychic into Thunder, and then Big Dracozolt comes in. Big Dracozolt comes in, goes for Substitute as Weezing comes out. And this is like a really cool thing about Substitute Dracozolt because like it eases prediction so much. And yeah, Weezing has a Strange Steam to break the sub, which can miss, by the way. Of course, Bolt Beak can miss too, but it does 88% to Weezing as they miss Strange Steam, and that's almost the beginning of the end here because now they can spam Dragon Claw with Dracozolt too, or Outrage if need be, as Flygon's gonna come out. They go for Dragon Claw right here. They kind of have to hope for a miss, but nope. They knock him out with Outrage as well, and that gets rid of the Scarf for 2 for the team. And Chandler's going to come out. Specs Shadow Ball does not pick up the KO on Dracozolt. I think that's Specs. It could be Scarf, but no, that's Specs. That's definitely 90%. Specs Shadow Ball does not pick up the KO, and basically Reuniclus would die, and Milotic would not appreciate the damage, and Milotic couldn't check the rest of the team. But basically, this game ends up falling to like an Earthquake crit right here from Rhyperior, and that's how the game ends up going. But it just showed how Dracozolt was able to break very early because of a very easy substitute play, right? Like it's not even a prediction, it just goes for substitute and didn't care. And here's the last replay we have, really showing the strengths of substitute, really showing the strengths of substitute Dracozolt. And shout out to my friend Lily, who actually passed a lot of the teams I did. Lily, I'm sorry to show this replay, but it was a good example, so it's just a lesson for the people. But yeah, basically this Flygon versus Milotic, good lead. Obviously, Lily U-turns out. Vaporeon. I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit to when Dracozolt comes in. Like they're just positioning, getting up rocks, blah blah blah. Rocks put Weezing in range of Bolt Beak potentially. There you go. Haxorus comes out. Vaporeon. Haxorus Earthquakes again. It's a Force Vaporeon right here to Wish, and this is it. Dracozolt gets to come out. It gets to come out right now. It reveals the leftovers, which does show its substitute, but even then, like if you lose Vaporeon, your pivots into Milotic become very hard because your water resist is gone, and Milotic can actually potentially Scald Burn. Well, not this is Flame Orb, but it can potentially Scald Burn and beat everything else. So Dracozolt gets the sub here, and they get the play right and decide to throw off a Dragon Claw, which was essentially kind of free because they're behind a sub, so there was no risk, right? Like even if Vaporeon stayed in, Vaporeon would be 2-hit KO by that into another move. But they get the only mon that could actually outspeed a Revenge Kill, which is Flygon. Weezing is going to come out, and at this point it doesn't matter as long as Dracozolt connects all of its attacks. Now granted, this Dracozolt has to connect its attacks, but as long as it does, like look how much it's doing to Weezing. That's insane, man. 83%. That's absolutely insane. As long as it continues to connect its attacks, it basically wins. So it connects its attacks versus the Guts Machamp, and from there, basically, Dracozolt would be able to pick off some KOs. So, and the rest of these are just basically talking about like how CB can hit like a truck, but you have to really predict with it. Whereas obviously the substitute set, as you guys saw multiple times, was able to ease that prediction and just pick up some KOs provided it hits. Now obviously these are all better replays, because I did ask for replays to show its strong points from people because I wanted to see it work. But I do think, however, that you guys have seen me use Dracozolt on the channel before as well. Hustle is not something to be messed with, and you will miss, and it will cost you games most likely. You guys saw me do it with Flapple as well, but it did look like, at least in those replays, that Dracozolt was something that was a bit overwhelming. Substitute is not that hard, and if I have to plan a way where, okay, well, just prevent your opponent from going for substitute. I mean, I already showed you why that play was really hard for Vaporeon either way. Like if Lily had Ice Beamed on the substitute and Dracozolt had went for Bolt Beak there and Vaporeon died, then switching into Scald from Milotic became near impossible for Lily, right? Ice Beam would deal with Flygon and it can always recover off and go over there. So like it's substitute always makes the play easier for the Dracozolt user. Whereas that's why they talked about counterplay is either winning a 50-50, dodging, which is probably the most likely, and then sacking and revenge killing. And even then, it's hard, especially because of the way the UU metagame works, unless you're using like Infiltrate or Noiva into Draco Meteor and whatnot. But that's basically why I'm assuming that's why all these people voted to ban. I would love to know why a main and probably didn't, why they didn't vote ban on it personally. And I'll just go through this real quick to see if they actually left a comment. But yeah, it literally my saying something about barbed wire. You have the nerve to call me back. Okay, that Yeezy actually said Dracozolt's broken, and I've seen 4-core sets of which I think are all healthy. Like even on paper, when the first drop, it seemed broken because of Bolt Beak Calcs. It's a mon with a decent speed tier that 2-hit KOs the metagame. Obviously, Hustle makes it less worrisome in practice. After playing a fair amount of games on the ladder, it really opened my eyes to see how unhealthy and frankly aggravating the play this mon truly is. CB 2-hit KOs the entire metagame with prediction, Scarf, outspeeds and alerts tons of Pokemon. Yep, sub lefties, we already know how much that did. Scouts to Scout, 2-hit KOs the according switch in of literally every mon unless it's fully Fizz Def, Hippowdon, and it's broken. Life Orb, again, 2-hit KOs Hippo, Oko's Weezing, Oko's all the potential switching is broken. As a whole, Dracozolt is forced inherently unhealthy, a matrix of 50-50 versus your fairy in your ground, and if you don't have one of the two, you're literally losing a mon to either Bolt Beak or Outrage unless you somehow manage to fish a 1 in 5 missed chance. When this mon initially dropped, it seemed busted on paper because of Bolt Beak Calcs, but I think people softened on it initially because the mon's usage wasn't widely spread. After running into Dracozolt on the ladder with a pretty competent team and constantly losing because I lost a 50-50 scout or my team wasn't healthy enough to endure a Scarf Zolt sweep is inordinately aggravating from a playing perspective. The only semi-reliable counterplay is literally Max Fizz Def Hippowdon, which still loses to 2 of the 4 aforementioned sets, which is the mixed Life Orb and the Choice Band set. The fact that legitimately only one viable mon can serve as reliable counterplay is absurd, and I believe that the meta would be far healthier, even though it's kind of whack without Dracozolt. I feel that a lot. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts on Dracozolt itself. Again, I did show replays that did show its strengths, so they were a little bit more biased towards Dracozolt itself. Obviously, had Dracozolt miss, there's actually some replays where Dracozolt misses versus Dracozolt, and then the Dracozolt is actually able to win. But let me know your thoughts on the Dracozolt ban. And another mon moving to the BL tier. Now BL has, once again, 2 Pokemon. Let me see if I can show it off. I played Blunder, by the way, yesterday in tournament. I haven't shown any. Yeah, now BL has 2 Pokemon, and I'm sure like RU will start doing its BL soon as well. But man, I just want to do BL Knights Blunder. That's all we want to do. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, my friends.